So, Assalamualaikum and good morning to everybody. This is the second lecture session in conjunction with our Ortho annual celebration. And it was started so that we could all get together, our graduates, our master students, and our staff, and so that also we could broaden our horizons, discuss things which are not academic, maybe to improve our general knowledge and to make us better people. Alhamdulillah, we are here today, and this is a very special day because we can all be together, and we have Prof. Bala here, who came all the way from Singapore, and the first time in a year he has honored us with his presence, and we are so happy that he can speak. We also have Dr. Tajuddin, who has come also. I think he has maybe not visited the department before, but he has a son with us, master student. So I really hope that these talks will be useful for everyone. And we have some recording going on so that we can keep it for posterity. And I really hope that next year we can continue the tradition. Just to get together and just listen to a few different things. Apart from having a nice party in the evening, it's nice also to learn something. So I wish good luck to the next year's organizers, but I would like to thank all my hardworking team, I think starting with the Chief of Entertainment, Prof. Azura. And of course, Dr. Terence, I think he worked the hardest. Thank you very much. And he's fairly new, so he didn't come to the last one, but he's really done a good job. Together with the hand team, Dr. Lau, and also our research assistants, Nora and Izati. Thank you very much, all of you. I think also we have some help from the technicians and all the staff in the department, and all our MOs made a big effort to put in some hard work in some way or another to make this successful. So without further ado, I think I should introduce Prof. Bala, which is really something very special. Prof. Bala is actually comes from Sentul. He's our Malaysian homegrown and very beloved teacher. He was in our department in 1966. And he rose up from lecturer all the way to professor and head. And he was head of department from 78 to 81. And he's actually a teacher of orthopedics, a surgeon, a researcher, all three, which we all aspire to be. And he's beloved throughout the region, Indonesia, probably throughout the world as well, Prof. But in ASEAN area, he is known very well and loved very well as a beloved teacher. And so I feel that he must love what he's doing because he has passed on so much of his information, so much of his passion to inspire others to do better. So I thought we should share some of that. So please give a warm welcome to Prof. Bala. He's going to talk about the joy of orthopedic teaching, research, and service. Thank you very much, Prof. Bala.
Good morning. Prof. Tunku Sara, Prof. Dr. Mahmud Marakan, my old friend. I was pleased to see you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be back here in University Malaya because this is the place where I grew up. I grew up actually here. And I don't know why Prof. Tunku Sara gave me this topic. The joy of orthopedic practice, teaching, and research, So it's my duty to justify the selection of the topic. I hope I can justify that. And try to take you through a process where I say I thank you. I have fond memories of my growth as a surgeon. The topic that has been given to me is an unusual one. It's not in a textbook or anything. It's an unusual one, and I have to give something to it. Just a bit of my medical history, because you might find certain things odd about my memory, about my stability, about my walking stick. I'm 86 years old. I had an aortic valve replacement, a multiple coronary angioplasty, carcinoma stomach resection and anastomosis, an unsteady gait, multiple anesthesia last year, after which my brain became woolly, and it had to be retrained after that. So I do a bit of firing the brain to wire the brain. Okay, next slide. The meaning of the word joy, joy means pleasure, satisfaction, extreme gladness, and it must lead to inner growth and satisfaction. That is the meaning of the word joy. In this talk, I must justify my teaching, service, and research gave me extreme gladness and satisfaction. Next slide. The topic of the lecture, orthopedic practice, teaching, and research, they are the three pillars of an academic life. About my academic life, there are a few realities and rules that I observed. We stand on the shoulders of others. That's very important to accept that and know that, Don't push the ladder off when you have climbed the academic ladder. You let others climb too. And the third thing I realized always is the second edition is always better than the first edition. The assistant will overtake you, and don't be jealous of that. I remember Prof. Smiley was here in 1969 as an examiner, our first examiner in orthopedics, 1969. And he said, Bala, jealousies are a part of university life. You must know how to survive. Next slide. Okay. If you look at the growth curve of a surgeon, we start as a resident in training. Then there's a phase of accelerated growth when you fill your gaps and learn new things. Then once you have done that, you reach the peak of your career and you stay on the top of a wide mountain range of active practice. Then like me, there's a phase of decline and decay. In the work of a surgeon, I derive the same joy, pleasure in the routine and non-glamorous work. Major challenging cases gave me extreme joy and satisfaction. Adult reconstruction, difficult spine, upper limb, lower limb problems. The separation of Siamese twins was a small incident, but its benefit was the recreation of a bony ring with a parasacral osteotomy. My clinical records, I kept good clinical records in my own handwriting, reviewed them 3 monthly. Date and sign it. I had pre-operative notes, operative notes, post-operative notes. And I learned from my cases, for they give a good idea of the wide spectrum of diseases and their natural history. Next slide. Imaging visually the steps of an operation. This is an important thing, especially for the juniors. I image visually the steps of every operation the night before surgery. It may be a ganglion for the nth time or a major case for the first time. The steps of every operation was visually imaged in my mind. Next slide. In our life as a surgeon, we are on top of the world one day. The next day, the heart sinks to the bottom of our pants when a disaster happens in surgery. This happens to all of us, But you must not allow that to destroy you. How did I minimize my errors? Awareness and vigilance to minimize errors and disasters is always necessary. With the joy of clinical practice, every case was important to me. I derived the same joy from a big case or a small case. Just a few words on learning and learning orthopedics. The facts are understood better if presented in sequence. We must learn to link the facts in series and also in parallel and finally into the web of knowledge. Retrieve them, analyze them, rearrange, synthesize, and reinforce memory. What do I do when I scrub? I'm asking the question. I always said a silent prayer when scrubbing. What did I pray for? Oh Lord, help me in the operation. If any disaster happens, it is in your divine plan, so help me to face it. The removal of sutures of all my cases was done by me, all the cases. I asked the question, why? I wanted to be involved in all aspects of patient care. Post-op, you see the success or failure of your operation when you remove sutures. Wound infection stares into your face. About the time for our work, we must protect our time. I have put practice, research, teaching, 30%, 30%. This is artificial. Sometimes we take more time in our practice rather than research. Managing time is important for a surgeon, otherwise you become immersed in the routine and mundane things. Just a point on residency training versus mentoring. Residency training, whether in orthopedics or surgery or medicine, is on a beaten track. Whereas mentoring is a powerful personal development and empowering tool. It is a relationship in which more experienced person helps to guide a less experienced person. You don't leave it to chance. My professional development, day-to-day experience was most influential in my professional development. My art of surgery was not learnt overnight in the medical school. It was learned later over the years from my consultants who were my role models. A few words of joy of teaching. I still teach, and I teach the FRCS Auth candidates from 9 of them every Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. Teach them by modules, basic sciences, hip, knee, foot and ankle, spine, hand, elbow, shoulder, pediatric orthopedics. The important thing is after teaching, you leave the class inspired not by the teaching, but by the excitement of contact with distinguished minds. That's the most important thing in the joy. Just a few areas of my research work. Effect of steroids on collagen of tendons. This was done in University of Malaya when I was here. Role of negative atmospheric pressure on the stability of the shoulder was done here. Collagen loss in skin and senile osteoporosis, again done when I was in University of Malaya. Scoliosis survey, correction, etc. Recurrent dislocation of peroneal tendons. Basal laminar tubes of muscles as a conduit for nerve regeneration. Just a few thoughts on the juniors. The juniors, I found, they always keep you on your toes. And you learn from them. Orthopedic training is usually on the beaten track. You put them on the beaten track, they will become orthopedic surgeons, you know. Whereas mentoring is different. It provides wisdom, technical knowledge, and empathy, and you don't leave it to chance. It is a developmental relationship. So in summary, I look back at the joy of orthopedic practice, teaching, and research. It was always a joy, regardless of success or failure. Thank you. That's all. Yeah. Come in.
So, ladies and gentlemen, after that which almost brought me to tears. Last year, we had Datuk Mahmud listening to his son giving a lecture, and he said he had never heard his son lecturing at all before in his life, and he was very happy to do that. But this year, we have a son listening to the father. I'm not sure whether he's listened to you before, Datuk, but Datuk Muhammad Tajuddin had a long and illustrious career in the Prime Minister's department. He was in the Ministry of Defence, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also Chief of Staff to Tun Abdullah Badawi when he was deputy and all the way to Prime Minister. So when Datuk Abdullah Badawi, when Tun Abdullah Badawi retired, Datuk became the secretary to the National Security Council, where he has managed many, many disasters, both internationally and locally, and tried to rescue Malaysians from various parts of the world. And we thought it's really something fascinating that we would like to hear, because usually there's a lot of complaints, there's a lot of hoo-ha about NGOs, etc. We really want to know, I'm sure the government is doing a lot of things which is very low profile. So please welcome Datuk Muhammad Tajuddin to tell us about the Malaysian government role in disasters.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam satu Malaysia. I take this opportunity to thank Prof. Tengku Sarah for the kind words, and also I thank everybody for being here this morning, and I thank the faculty for inviting me also this morning. I was told that my session starts at 9:30, so not to be late, I arrived at 9:15, but I was told that everybody was waiting for me. Honestly, I was not trying to make a grand entrance. I thought to be here just on time so that I just do what I have to do, then I can take leave. But anyway, I'm sorry if you're waiting for me earlier. Anyway, I was asked to talk about disaster management, and I tried to link it as much as possible to some roles related to the medical profession. So what I have is about the national policy on disaster management, just to run through quickly so you understand how we manage disaster in the country and also overseas. Then the standard operating procedures, very briefly, just to tell you what it is all about, not to explain the details. Then we have the National Security Council, our SMART team, which was involved in the Ukraine conflict, and was involved in the recent one in Nepal, the search and rescue operations, and they were also involved in other operations all over the world and also in the country. Then finally, the medical roles on disaster management. As a policy, following the Highland Towers, we came up with this instruction number 20 of the National Security Council. This is actually the guideline on how we manage disaster. What happened at the Highland Towers when it happened? Everybody went there, the police were there, the fire rescue departments were there, and everybody was looking at each other, do not know who to take the lead. So that was what made us to decide that we need to have a comprehensive policy, that should a disaster happen, we will have a leader there. So through this policy, or through this instruction that was done by through the Prime Minister, then we got instruction 20 done. So all the policies on disaster management, any crisis that happened, it is all inside this small booklet. However, 30th March 2012, we reviewed the instruction 20 because things were getting more complicated, things were getting more complex, the magnitude of it were getting bigger, and there were more players involved, the NGOs and everybody else coming in at the same time. So we need to coordinate and put all of this in order. So we reviewed the instruction on the 30th of March 2012. The role of the National Security Council on Disaster Management. One, we are the disaster management focal point for the country. Number two, with the Secretariat to the Disaster Management Committees, that is at the state, district, and the federal level. Then we formulate disaster management policy and strategy. 4, we implement the disaster management policy and strategy. 5, we monitor disaster risk reduction initiatives. 6, we coordinate disaster management exercises. 7, we coordinate disaster awareness programs. 8, we conduct disaster after action review. We manage the disaster relief funds. We also the head of National Humanitarian Assistance Team. And finally, we also mobilize the National Security Council SMART team, which is the elite search and rescue team. The aims of purpose, if we look at the whole thing, based on the way we conduct our disaster management, that is, we conduct it at 3 levels. One is at the district level, and should the district not able to cope with the disaster, then we move to the second level. So the district is the first responder, then the second level is the state. The state becomes the second responder. Should the disaster becomes big, like the issue, like the recent floods in Kelantan, then the federal government comes in. Then the federal government becomes the third responder. However, now we're thinking to make it into 4. The fourth, the new identity now will be the community level or the village level. That means we're going lower down from the district level. So when we look at the management of the disaster, there are 2 parts of it. Any disaster that happens, one is the search and rescue, whether it is floods or landslide or earthquakes, anything that happen, the first part is the search and rescue. Once we've really done the search and rescue, which is normally conducted by the police, the army, the fire and rescue department, or the civil defense department, after they've done the search and rescue, the victims are sent to the evacuation centers. And once at the evacuation centers, then the Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat or the welfare department will take over. They will provide the food, shelter, clothing, and everything that is needed there. Then the management, as I mentioned earlier, we have the district management committee, which is the lowest level, then the state management committee, followed by the national management committees. That's the 3 levels that we have. Then if we look further, not only that we manage those just the disasters like I mentioned earlier about floods and the landslides, but we also look at floods, industrial disasters, haze, petrochemical disasters, earthquake, tsunami, and drought. But for purposes in Malaysia, we are normally much engrossed in floods towards the end of the year. Haze always happens when we have problems coming across from Sumatra, Kalimantan area. And then petrochemical, once in a while we get from the ships and whatever happens in collision at sea. Earthquake is not ours, but we always help in Padang, in Sumatra, we help in Aceh over the tsunami, and the most recent we were in Nepal. And even this morning, we're still sending relief items to Nepal. The first shipment we sent was through our military aircraft. We sent medical supplies to them, and also the medical team. And then today, we are sending to them more of the relief items like food, tents, and blankets, and those kind of items. And of course, drought. Then the MKN SMART team, or the National Security SMART team, this is an elite search and rescue team. They conduct operations which require expertise and professionalism, and these are special skills and equipment which is beyond not normally available to any search and rescue team. So this team, it comprises of 143 members. They conduct complex disasters, and then they do special search and rescue operations, and they are now to be classified under the INSARAG Heavy Urban Search and Rescue team for the 2016. This is a UN classification. So for the first time, we are going for this, and we hope to get registered. And for your information, also in the whole of ASEAN region, Singapore is the only team with the INSARAG qualification from the United Nations. So should we qualify in February 2016, we will be the second team in ASEAN. And in Asia, there are only 6 teams at the moment that have got this qualification. So we will be the 7th team should we qualify for it. The SMART team had several missions that was done abroad, and I think one of the most challenging one that they had was in Ukraine when our MH17 was shot down. So the team was sent there, and there was not much search and rescue they could do at that particular point of time. But except that you are in a war zone and you have the dead bodies thrown all over the place, and the least that they could do was to comb the whole area and collect all the bodies that was available there. And they collected all together about 6 coaches in a train, and they brought all the body and the body parts out, but they couldn't do anything very much because they're in a war zone. So what they did was they put all in the coaches, brought it out, and then from there it was flown on the C-130 of the German Air Force and also the Netherlands Air Force to Amsterdam. And that was where we saw all the process, that all the other DNAs and everything was done in Amsterdam. So that was a major operation that they did in Ukraine. Subsequently, also the SMART team is also deployed to many other parts of the world. So far, they have already conducted 26 missions abroad. And the latest operations that we did was in Nepal. So in Nepal, we sent the smart team. Although we had 143 members, we sent 30 members there. But it is not just the smart team that we send there. We need medical backing. So what we did was we do not have medical teams in the National Security Council. But to go for the UN classification and to pass the test or the evaluation there, we need medical team. So we are supported by the medical team from the military. So they have a dedicated team which is assigned to the National Security Council. So whenever we conduct operations overseas, it is this team that will go with us. So that team went with us, and together that went with us were also teams from the Mercy and also from the Red Cross. So a team of 50 members went, and it was I think they did very, very well when they were there. We opened up the field clinics in Nepal, and they treated something like 250 patients in a day. At all those at the open clinics that we had in Nepal. Most of the patients they treated in Nepal, because of the earthquake, people were not allowed to stay indoors, were not allowed to stay, and it was quite cold down there. It was 10 degrees, and there were no shelters, no blankets, no tents. They've not arrived from all the donors yet. So being exposed to the open air, many people got cold, cough, and all those kind of a treatment. So that was the general treatment that they needed. But the more important thing that was needed at that time was the orthopedics. There were many of the people or the victims that we took out from the rubbles there were victims who had broken legs, broken arms, and all this kind of a treatment. So for the next trip, for any earthquake, I can count on the 40 volunteers that we have in the hall here. So you can register with National Security Council. We'll take you along with us. But that is still going on until today. So if you talk about the medical roles under Directive number 20, we have the provide the emergency treatment and rescue services, and also to coordinate the emergency management and treatment whenever it has been required. These are all on-scene operations, like what's happening in Nepal. And we did the same thing for the landslides that happened at the orphanage in Ampang the other day at Bukit Belacan. And this is something that is going on, and we do coordinate our activities very closely with the Ministry of Health. But just yesterday, I was having some discussion with people from the Health Ministry. There's some worry as well. So we are not worried or concerned about the people in Nepal. They willingly accept whatever treatment that the medical team gives when we salvage them from whatever ruins there. But the question now, what about the tourists, some from the European countries? When you give them an emergency treatment, and after treating them, should anything goes wrong, will they come back after us? So that was the issue we were trying to resolve yesterday. How do we overcome such problems? So that is why their concern is that after fixing these people with broken bones or broken legs or whatever, should they start walking sideways or backwards after that, then the blame will come back to us. So we need to address this kind of situation in the near future. So then I just talk a little bit about the hospitals. If you look at these pictures here, this was what happened in Kelantan during the recent monsoon period during the floods. If you look at the situation there, it is very unfortunate that the hospitals had to go dark. There was no electricity. We had to switch off the electricity, otherwise people will get electrocuted through the water because the water levels was very high. In some places, the water was even up to 40 feet of water. Most of the hospitals in Kuala Krai area were all inundated at that time. So can you imagine the task that we had at that time to take the patients out, to evacuate the patients from the hospital and to find another place? And mind you again, I'm sure you're all fully aware, not every hospital have got a bed available for every patient. And if you got to evacuate from one hospital to the other, and when the whole state is inundated by water, it was a nightmare. And we have done this before when during the big floods in Kedah in 2010. We had to even carry patients from the Alostar Hospital to the Penang General Hospital by helicopters. So we have done that before. We even made use of the Tan Tock Seng Hospital in Penang to transfer patients. But if you look at the situation here, when the hospital went dark, the two things could have been done. One was the TNB. TNB should have been able to provide the generators before the floods, but they did not do that. It was only when the power got cut off, then only they decided to move the generators there. And on the other hand, the hospital too could have provided generators. So what we did was we got generators on an emergency basis. We flew the generators through helicopters, and upon arriving there, we discovered that there was no diesel in Kuala Karai. None of the petrol stations were functioning. Then we had to send diesel through helicopter also. The cost of the diesel was only 5%, but the cost of transporting the diesel was 95%. But this is the kind of a thing that the doctors and the nurses and the medical team had to face there. But I have full salute to the medical team there. They work around the clock, because the people who were supposed to take over the shift of the hospitals were not able to make it to the hospital. So those that were working in the hospital, despite the fact that the hospital is already inundated and already covered with water, they continued to work around the clock throughout the whole session. The only thing that we did was to supply food and for them during the duration of the operations. Then, of course, this is the situation in Yaman. What you see here is one of the most challenging tasks that we had. That was, we had to evacuate students from a place called Aden in Yemen, and this place is a real war-torn area. There's the most severe fighting took place here. There were shootings and bombings and everything there, and we got 67 Malaysians trapped there. We couldn't take them out. It was too dangerous. Even from the place that they were staying to bring them to the port of Aden, it was too dangerous. But there was a small window available, and we took that opportunity, and we got the help of the ICRC from Geneva to help us, and they contacted their local partners in Aden, and they helped us to take these Malaysians out to the port. Then you can see this is actually not a conducive boat, it's not a luxury boat, and it is just what we call a tongkang. But you have no choice, because at that point of time, they were already using civilians and what more foreigners as human shield at the Houthis' defense depots, because they do not want the Saudis to bomb their defense equipment and whatever that they have. So it was too risky a business to leave the Malaysians there. We had to take them out by hook or by crook. So the best route out is we couldn't go along the coast to Muscat because it's too dangerous because of the snipers. Then the best way is just to get out of the port of Aden and to head to Djibouti, which is an African nation, which takes about 13 to 14 hours on that ship. But unfortunate for those Malaysians there, while we were out at the sea was very rough, the weather was very bad. The 13-hour journey became 22 hours. So by the time they arrived at the port of Djibouti, they were all worn out. So we had to treat on emergency. We can see the one on the left where I was attending to a few of the very, very sick Malaysians who arrived safely in Djibouti. But after giving them one pack of nasi lemak on the Malaysian Airlines, on the Royal Malaysian Air Force Charlie 130, all of them looked fresh and all were all were good after that. So that was a major exercise that we did in Yemen. So altogether, we took out more than 200 Malaysians, more than 700 Malaysians from Yemen. The 200 very stubborn ones who refused to come back, and they are still there. Okay, and just now the earlier picture, that is the team that went, the earlier picture, can you go back? Yeah, this picture, this is the team that went to Nepal. One, we had the search and rescue team, and those in blue. Those that are not in blue are all the medical team. Yeah, the medical team, they are from the Bulan Sabit Merah, and then they're also from Mercy Malaysia, and also from the military, Korps Kesihatan Tentera Darat. Okay, and sorry, I think the slides were a little bit disorganized here. So when you talk about the disaster response, when you look at the hospital just now in the dark, and then you have water levels rising there and all, and the hospital gets inundated, what do we do? So these are the few things that we can do. Then is every hospital should have your disaster response committee. And then number two, we need sufficient medical supplies at the hospital, so that knowing that we're going to have the monsoon, you should have all these supplies ready with you, so that anything happens, we need not rush all these items there. Then you must have your patient evacuation plan. Then fourthly, sufficient fuel and water supplies, so that we don't have to rush and send through helicopters. And then the logistic supports for the evacuation and also your communication plan. So with that, I end my presentation and I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dato'. It was really kind of you to come this morning, and sorry about the mix-up in communications, but luckily we got you here in time. And I